I wonder how much of homosexual behavior could be induced by molestation at an early age, though.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
That seems to be a real factor. It's not, and this is not denying people that are born gay, but I think there's a spectrum. And I think there's most certainly some gay acts that are committed on young people. And horrifically, those people tend to, on a pretty frequent basis, do the same thing to other young kids.
Yep.
It gets really weird in terms of like the victims becoming the victimizer.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. We're walking into the elephant in the room.
Well, we're kind of not even. I'm just talking about, I was listening to the George Takei interview today because they're trying to pull up everybody. Now that the Milo thing is out, they're pulling up everybody who in any way has condoned sex with underage people. And George Takei was talking about his own experiences in camp, and it was on the Stern Show, and he was just talking about the way he was describing it as a positive experience with a kid who was in his late teens. I think he said he was 19, and he was like 13, somewhere in that age. And, you know, it's absolutely child molestation. It's absolutely illegal. But the way he was describing it, he was pretty much describing it as a positive experience.
Right.
Which when it's your experience, I mean, it's illegal. The guy did something that was against the law, but boy, that's a weird area because it's his experience that he was talking about.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal, and this is a mistake Milo made. You have to acknowledge that what you're talking about is fucked up and horrible and wrong, but you just so happen to have not had a bad experience within those parameters.
Right.
Like, say you were raped as a woman and you came.
Right. Which, by the way, happens for some strange reason.
Okay, so if you're one of those women and you're about to say that, you have to understand that we're going into a very dangerous place right now, and you can't say, look, some rapes are absolutely fabulous, and women have come from them. You have to say, this is fucking horrible, rape is evil, but I, by some weird freak of nature, actually liked it. Or a murder. I'm sure there's times when you murdered a guy and he was a mass murderer and it was a good murder.
Right.
And you go, okay, I'm describing a murder. I'm not condoning murder, but in this weird case, it worked.
Yeah.
And Milo's mistake was he said, it worked for me, and then he implied that it could work for a ton of other gays to be fucked at 13.
Well, he did that Drunken Peasants podcast, and his take on it from the Drunken Peasants was different than his take on it from mine. And on my podcast, it seemed more like he was trying to make light of something that most likely definitely did happen to him.
The Father Michael thing?
Yeah.
So there's two. There's the Father Michael thing, and I don't know if I believe that. I think that's just I've heard him say that joke a few times, where he's like, I never would have given such good head if it wasn't for Father Michael.
Right. So you think that might be something that he's constructed?
I don't believe it. I don't know why. That's just my gut. And then the other thing was condoning sexual relationships with 13-year-olds, and he said, especially in the gay world. Now, I know of straight guys who were, a straight guy I'm thinking of in particular, who was molested at camp, and it was by an older gay camp counselor. This guy thinks of that guy every day. He follows him on LinkedIn, hoping he'll die. He wants to murder him. So the problem with what Milo said is you end up normalizing this behavior and say it's okay in the gay world. Next thing you know, some older gay who's at camp goes, well, this is probably a fag that I'm blowing, so this is okay.
Yeah.
So what I say to these gays, these 13-year-old gays that go, I would be okay with fucking a 29-year-old, I go, well, I'm sorry, but we're not normalizing that because the vast, vast majority of times it doesn't turn out well. So, no.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. You know, and it's really disturbing. Well, the Milo thing is so odd because, first of all, I think he's got this act. And let's call it an act, because part of it has got to be an act.
He's got a wide spectrum of his personalities.
Yeah.
So on Bill Maher, he can be a raging Liberace queen with pearls on.
Yeah, dressed like a woman. I mean,
dressed like a woman.
Yeah.
Camper than any woman I know.
Yeah.
And then for the apology, he's the conservative with the Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when a Jamaican goes back to Jamaica and they start speaking in patois like their grandmother. You're not necessarily lying. It's just a wide range of yous.
Yeah, he plays it up, and there's definitely a performance piece to a lot of what he does. What's really interesting is he's very good at riling people up. He's obviously very good at getting people upset, and in doing so, he's created these sort of false narratives about him, that he's a Nazi, that he promotes genocide. I mean, there were so many people outside the Berkeley thing that were screaming, calling him a Nazi and saying he's a fascist, when they, in fact, were behaving in very authoritarian fascist ways.
That's Antifa, by the way. You said I don't know what Antifa is. That's those guys.
Anti-fascist? Is that what Antifa stands for? Okay.
But you're right. They're terrorists, and they use terror. They use violence to achieve political gains, which is terrorism. And these people, it's not like Milo ever said, or Trump even ever said anything that is remotely close to genocide. But those guys just go, anyone that wants to enforce immigration laws is a fucking Nazi. So I need violence because I'm trying to stop Hitler. I'm around the first stages of Hitler. So I'm going back in time and strangling him in his crib.
Right, right. But the problem is the way they're reacting to it is the absolute wrong way to react to someone who's saying something that you don't agree with.
Oh, yeah.
The right way is to say something that you feel opposes what they're saying and makes more sense, to debate them.
That's the beauty of free speech. Like, it has no limits.
Yeah.
If you want to get out there and deny the Holocaust, you want to get out there and sexualize toddlers, I'll go to your talk. I want to hear it. And then in the Q&A, I'll shoot you down.
Well, I don't think it even should just be a Q&A. I mean, I think it should be real clear. There should be someone, and we shouldn't just rely on the audience to come up with some sort of response. I think if you're going to have someone as controversial as Milo, and you're so opposed to it that you're willing to throw bricks through Starbucks windows and light cop cars on fire, there should be someone that can speak for your side.
Of course.
And then you should organize some sort of a talk. But this is setting it up the wrong way because you go, it's like someone said to me once, hey man, like we were talking about martial arts. If I was a black belt, I'd fucking kick everybody's ass. I go, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. First of all, you wouldn't because you'd have discipline and you'd realize the consequences of that. But second of all, when you just kick someone's ass, they don't just take it. Like they come back with a bat or a gun or their brother, or you start a fight, and they want to get it back, and it goes back and forth, and all conflict pretty much goes that way. You have conflict, and then someone responds to that conflict, and it escalates. So if you have this thing where you start throwing bricks through windows and lighting cop cars on fire and stopping people from talking and hitting people that have "Make Bitcoin Great Again" hats. Did you see that girl got maced in the face?
You
know what happens? Eventually, people show up with guns. That's what happens. And this is what happens. When you keep escalating the violence, you become a them, you become the other, you become the enemy, and you create this polarizing atmosphere that's so intense that no dialogue is going to fix it now because you're the enemy. You're talking about the North versus the South. You're talking about, the Protestants versus the Catholics. You create this horrific environment where it's almost impossible to avoid violence.
Well, so I'm done avoiding it. I'm taking the low road. I'm punching them in the face.
So that's what you're doing with this outfit?
Yes. That is really what I'm doing with this outfit. I did a talk at NYU. They pepper sprayed me.
Did they really? When was this?
This was a couple weeks ago.
What was the talk about?
I didn't even have a plan. They know me as pro-Trump or something, and I'm a Nazi because of that, and they don't want to give a platform to free speech. That's the irony of all this, is they pretend that it's gotten so far, it's beyond debate now. In their world, we are recruiting fascists for some sort of imminent genocide. So we're like signing up the brown shirts with a form at our talks. And you go, say that was possible? How does that work? Like, we sign you up, then you're part of the club, then you come with us on the next genocide? The fuck are you talking about? You haven't even played it through in your mind, because for these people, it's a religion. That's why they don't want to debate. It's like a born again. He doesn't want to debate about the existence of God. He's already on that side.
So what was your plan when you went there? What did you want to talk about?
I was going to say, this Nazi that you made Milo and I out to be, who wants genocide and who sees non-whites as inhuman, blah, 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 homophobic, sexist, whatever. First of all, that guy should be allowed to talk if he existed, but he doesn't exist. Your monster is a mythical beast.
Right.
And you've gone to college, you're 60 grand in debt already to fight this mythical beast who doesn't fucking exist.
Well, in terms of Milo, he definitely doesn't exist. Milo's not a Nazi. He's not promoting genocide. And those are two things that just get trumpeted about left and right. Exactly. Who is? But Milo has said some very inflammatory things about, and in a very generalizing way, about women and about the wage gap and about all sorts of things that he designs his words and his phrases to be inflammatory, so he gets the most response, and it's been incredibly profitable. I mean, up until HarperCollins pulled his book deal, he had a $250,000 book advance. His book was #1 on Amazon just sheerly through controversy.
Yep.
I mean, through pre-sales and controversy. So it's a strategy in a lot of ways, and it's also a response to this really hard stance that the far left is taking, this anti-free speech stance.
Right, but always with these cases, you go, what exactly did he say? I always say this to people who bitch about Ann Coulter. I go, what sentence in what book is factually incorrect? What specifically are you saying? And with this Milo thing, he said that often sexual relationships with 13-year-olds can be beneficial for gays. He has since retracted that and apologized, but that's not enough. And that's about as egregious as he gets. The other stuff that he says, we all say in a joking way, and then that becomes pure evil, and you advocate for this.
Right.
So the left is willfully ignorant of humor when it comes to Milo, and with Trump, too. Like with the grab the pussy thing, which they had a whole fucking parade about, and they still wear these dumb wool hats to look like a pussy, which is a joke he said on a bus. So you're wearing a dumb joke on your head. They know that he doesn't want to have a new policy called the pussy grabbing statute, but they are willfully hiding their sense of humor so they can take things literally and go off on a tirade about that.
Well, I think they're shocked that we've been fed our entire life politicians that speak in a statesmanly-like way, a very predetermined, planned-out way, where they have pauses in their speech, like Obama. When he speaks, he has some very non-normal patterns to his behavior. Yeah. And like those things that people do, the showmanship of being a president, that it's all designed to comfort you and have you think that this person is clearly different than anyone you know. They talk different. They have better speeches. They have better speaks. They're statesman-like. You know, they speak in these pre-planned out sentences that are articulate and cleanly worded. And that's not what you get with Trump, and that disturbs the shit out of people. It disturbs it. Like, I saw so many people going off the other day about his talk about uranium and Hillary Clinton selling uranium. You know, how it's things and it's for things, very bad things. Like, he's running out of words. He doesn't know what the words are. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but people are pointing to it like it's this horrible moment where this president, essentially all he did was run out of words and just, the fucking guy's probably working 16 hours a day. He's probably exhausted. I mean, the overwhelming stress of the job for any one of them is almost immediately apparent once they get into office. And you're seeing it with Trump as well. You're seeing like that unhinged press conference that he made. Guarantee you some of that has to do with the fact the guy is worn the fuck out. You know, he's a 70-year-old man. Like, I'm almost 50 and I'm fucking tired all the time. How's this guy who's 20 years older than me going to deal with the stress of running the biggest economy, the biggest military, the most insane country the world has ever known? I mean, that's what the United States is. Yeah,
they say Maggie Thatcher slept 4 hours a night. 4 hours a night repeatedly starts to chip away at your psyche.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing I always say about Trump when they say he's not presidential is, I tried that. I tried it with Romney. You got mad at his binder comment. I tried it with Cruz, the constitutional Superman, who could debate anyone and was erudite and presidential. And you went, no, he's ugly. So I said, okay, I'm bringing in Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack, and he's just going to be a wrecking ball. And when Huffington Post says we're putting Trump in the entertainment section instead of the news section, Romney and Cruz wouldn't have said anything. Trump says, and Ann Coulter points this out in her book, In Trump We Trust, Trump goes, Arianna Huffington, didn't your husband leave you for a man? Yeah, I think he made the right choice. I think it was a very good choice. And I go, that's you brought this on yourself. You made me have to get him.
Well, what she's doing, you know, what Ann Coulter's doing is very similar to what Milo's doing. I mean, they're merchants of outrage. I mean, that's what they're doing.
I disagree. I think they're speaking in a hyperbolic tone. They're flamboyant.
But that's a big part of what he's selling.
There.
Yes, there's definitely some truth, especially with Milo. There's some of the things that he says. But
it's all truth. What like, again, I'm saying it right now. What did he say that's factually incorrect?
Well,
That wasn't a joke.
Not factually incorrect, but extremely offensive to people, like the 13-year-old boy comment, like the thing about sort of normalizing relationships between grown men and 13-year-old boys.
Right.
You know, I think a big part of why he even says that is because he's in many ways like a natural contrarian, and in many ways a guy who wants to get a rise out of people. And by saying that, he didn't feel like there's any consequences to being outrageous in that regard.
Right.
But I think we could both agree, whether or not it's factual in his case, it's a fucked up thing to say, right?
It is a fucked up thing to say. It was negligent, which is why he apologized. But I think the grain of truth to that, and with his other statements, is a lot more than a grain. But the grain of truth to what he was saying is gays have less chastity than straights. And if a woman is known as a slut, she's less likely to be picked up. And I've been sued for calling a woman a slut.
Were you really?
Yep.
Who sued you?
It was a long time ago, back in Vice days. It was in Do's and Don'ts. And the way the law is, it's kind of antiquated, but it's like, oh, you called her a slut. Now she won't have currency in the market of marriage because she's known as a whore. So we're going to punish you punitively for this sin.
Did you have to settle?
Yeah.
God damn it. You can't even call someone a slut. There's no equivalent word for a man.
No. A cad? That's a compliment.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
A cad is hilarious.
Well, the fact that there's no equivalent for a man shows you that there's a different standard. And then with gays, it is different too. Like 13-year-old and an older person, right? If it's a girl and a 40-year-old teacher, I want to take him to the parking lot and beat him till he walks weird for the rest of his life. If it's a woman and a boy, I don't want to murder her. I'm grossed out. 13 especially. 14, little better. And then with gays, well, I'm not going to make the same mistake Milo made right now. Don't ever do it. But if a gay's known as a slut in the future, like say a 19-year-old fucks 200 people, as a woman, no one wants to go near. As a gay, you've been around the block.
Yeah, there's not the same consequences for sure. And I had a bit in my act about, I don't know if you remember this commercial, but there was a commercial, a Just for Men commercial, where there was a baby that was driving a Porsche, a baby with a beard, and there was a grown woman next to the baby. And the baby has like a tuxedo on, and it's like, you've always wanted the biggest, baddest beard. And the baby goes to the nightclub, and the bouncer looks at him and winks at him. Like, look at this. Look at this commercial. See the baby? Yeah. So the baby walks in, Just for Men. I mean, I don't know what the fuck. Just for Men, if you don't know it, is some stuff that guys put in their beard when they're getting old. So this baby's got a bottle. He goes out to the dance floor. There's all these girls with these tiny little skirts dancing around him. And he's like a pimp. And he's with this hot woman. And this, to me, my bit was, this is proof positive there's no sexual equality when it comes to child molesting. Because if you even wrote that down with the sexes reversed, if you even wrote it down, you're fucking going to jail. Okay? Yeah. There's a little baby girl, and she goes out to a room full of guys who are wearing Tarzan skirts, and they're all swinging dicks around her, and she's got a bottle, and they're all fighting for her attention and kissing her on the cheek. You would go to fucking jail. But that was a commercial that aired on mainstream television. No one cared about it. That commercial aired for years. It's probably still on now. And that commercial is proof positive that we have a completely different attitude towards a grown woman who's hot as fuck and a little baby.
Yeah. Well, even I was watching Big with the kids the other day. Tom Hanks is what, 8 in that movie? Yeah. 9? And then that woman seduces him, and I guess he fucks her. He gets a boner. And I'm like, you're raping a child.
Exactly.
Why are we watching this?
But she's hot. She's hot, and he looks like a man, so fucking let it ride.
But
if that movie was reversed, and it was a young girl that all of a sudden was in a sexual woman's body, and the guy was fucking her, she's like, I don't know, are we supposed to be doing this? You would be horrified. You would be absolutely horrified.
I've been arguing about, because of the Milo thing, been arguing about all this a lot, and I've been getting from gays and guys without kids that are young, this whole thing about how they keep saying, come on, don't lie. You would definitely want to fuck a 13-year-old girl if she was hot. And I go, I don't know where this became a normal sentence. I fucked 17-year-olds when I was 17. It was the worst sex. Remember that? And you'd be on top of her, and it was, and you didn't even know when it was in.
Nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah, it's not like they go, yeah, fucking, oh. They didn't like it till they were like 26. I want pendulous breasts. I want a divorcee with a neck
Pendulous,
tattoo.
like worn out, just
4 pencils.
hanging low.
4. I want them to
low.
look like cocks when she's on all 4s. And I want to see them. Actually, I don't want to see them swing because I'll come if I look at them swinging. Oh, come on. I'm not talking about like a orange in a sock.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, it's got meat there, but they droop.
Right.
Like when you're fucking from behind, they go in
they've experienced
concentric
life.
Circles. Yes.
They've experienced life.
You don't want to play tennis with a toddler.
Yes.
You want to play tennis with someone who can return a serve.
Yes, good point. Yeah, I don't get that. Yeah, come on. You never been attracted to a 15-year-old girl? Like I really don't get that.